What's up, guys? Adam Green here with No More News. Today is Thursday, May 29th, 2025. Got a huge show today. Appreciate you all for being here. Going to be discussing Trump warning Netanyahu about striking Iran while during negotiations. There's talk of Netanyahu and Gaza accepting Witkoff's peace and hostage deal and peace ceasefire proposal. The drama playing out with Trump and Putin also escalating. Putin responds and says that the West is putting him into a chokehold and he's going to reciprocate, something along those lines. You know, the whole Netanyahu, Putin, Trump love triangles feels like I'm looking at tabloids or TMZ of like Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie or something. The constant back and forth of the drama, the theater between all of these guys really makes you wonder. Playing out like it's a tabloid breakup or tabloid drama. Rumors and leaks, and he said this, and he responded and said that. We're going to get into all that, as well as Trump's new appointed, sworn-in U.S. attorney, Fox News host Jeanine Pirro, who is another Third Temple cultist. Post I made of her talking about Trump fulfilling biblical prophecy. And a bunch of other stories. They're building new settlements. A bunch of stuff is going on. But first, some house cleaning stuff. This show is brought to you by you guys and your support. There's the Power Chat link to participate in the show with your message that'll be read with the AI voice and contribute financially to the show. And the latest batch of limited edition No More News shirts. Some of the sizes only have one or two left. There's the Viking Owl V-neck, nice high quality shirt. The Viking Owl and the Viking Longboat, both with No More News. Spread the message. Support the channel, knowmorenews.org. And you can click store or just click on the shirts there. Buy both, you get free shipping. Don't miss out. They're probably going to be sold out soon. And next month, it'll be a new style. And shout out to everybody that's been supporting over on Subscribestar, the people that transferred over after we got debanked on Odysee and Patreon and PayPal and Facebook. A bunch of people are getting banned from Facebook and Instagram now, too. They promised that they were going to ease censorship, and now they're dropping the ban hammers again. Once Trump gets in, they drop the ban hammers, of course. Okay, let's fix that up. And Trump. So the latest yesterday, Trump, I told Netanyahu striking Iran would be very, quote, very inappropriate when talks very close to a solution, talks with Iran. And this is a response. He was asked this. We'll play the clip in a second. There was a report 3 days ago. Report Netanyahu-Trump phone call on Iran was marked by heated disagreements. They keep doing this stuff. Oh, some source said this. Some leak said this. The drama between these guys. Jewish news syndicate denies and says it's rumors and people in Qatari disinformation and trying to break them up. Political theater disguised as journalism. Political theater. That's what it seems like to me a little bit too. In fact, I'm even hearing like QAnon people say and MAGA people saying like Trump on the phone, memes with Trump on the phone with Putin. Like, don't worry, I'm just getting the war hawks and the neocons off my back. They're like talking shit publicly, but actually, winking at each other and doing something behind the scenes. So JNS says, a new expose on the New York Times claimed Trump privately lashed out at Netanyahu over Gaza. Alex Jones is really pushing this a lot too, I've noticed. And a lot of the pro-Putin Christian Muslim controlled op types. There's no substance behind the spectacle between Trump and Netanyahu, claims the Jews. Oops. And let's go to the clip now. Also, notice how scared Trump was. He goes, next question. He's so scared to offend Netanyahu in Israel. Usually he's such a shit talker. He talks such a big game. And he's like, scared little boy here.
Back on Iran, did you warn Prime Minister Netanyahu against taking some sort of actions that could disrupt the talks there in a phone call last week?
Well, I'd like to be honest. Yes, I did. Next question, please.
Next question. Look at her laughing, too. Zionist Organization of America award winner.
Senate Republicans want to push.
It's not a warning. I said I don't think it's appropriate.
What exactly did you tell him? Did you
I just said I don't think it's appropriate. We're having very good discussions with him, and I said I don't.
It's not appropriate. Just the fact that Netanyahu and Israel, by like making these threats and stuff, is trying to sabotage peace negotiations.
In a phone call last week?
Well, I'd like to be honest. Yes, I did. Next question, please.
Just on sanctions.
I did, yeah.
If Senate Republicans want to push.
It's not a warning. I said I don't think it's appropriate.
What exactly did you tell him? Did you
I just said I don't think it's appropriate. We're having very good discussions with him, and I said I don't think it's appropriate right now.
Ben Shapiro, almost called him Benjamin Shapiro, got him mixed up with Netanyahu. Shapiro's seething. We're going to play his clip in a second. He's real mad about this.
Because if we can settle it with a very strong document, very strong, with inspections and no trust. I don't trust anybody. I don't trust anybody.
Me neither.
So no trust. I want it very strong where we can go in with inspectors. We can take
no trust. No trust for Netanyahu. Is that what that's code for?
I don't trust anybody. So no trust. I want it.
Or he's saying he doesn't trust Iran.
With inspectors, we can take whatever we want. We can blow up whatever we want, but nobody getting killed. We can blow up a lab, but nobody's going to be in the lab, as opposed to everybody being in the lab and blowing it up, right? Two ways.
That's the deal, is they're going to blow up Iranians' nuclear labs. He's going to warn them first so they can get out. That's going to be the deal?
Doing it. Yeah, I told him this would be inappropriate to do right now because we're very close to a solution. Now, that could change at any moment, could change with a phone call. But right now, I think they want to make a deal, and if we can make a deal...
She's got the Edom eagle on her. Shoot. I hate when it does that.
Could change at any moment, could change with a phone call. But right now, I think they want to make a deal, and if we can make a deal...
Iran can change at any moment. And what does this do? This gives Trump the appearance. This is a Jewish, actually, commandment. You offer peace first before you wage war. That's like a Jewish thing. That's the Jewish law. First, you have to offer peace, and then you could wage war. So I think that's what we're seeing right now, is when Trump eventually starts bombing Israel and Trump start bombing Iran and kicking off Gog and Magog, he'll get to say, well, he tried to do peace. He tried to have a deal. I can see that plausible deniability situation happening. Ben Shapiro is seething.
Emerge that suggested that President... So a kind of shocking story from Axios yesterday emerged that suggested that President Trump had cautioned Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in a phone call last week not to take any action that could jeopardize negotiations between the United States and Iran on a new nuclear deal. Okay, so first of all, I have a question. Israel is not involved in those negotiations. So why should Israel hold off? Real question.
Why should... You're supposed to be our greatest ally. Your president, Trump, is negotiating with Iran. Why should you hold off on attacking their sites and screwing up the negotiations? Ben Shapiro's Israel first attitude is showing so hard right now.
Question. Israel is not involved in those negotiations. So why should Israel hold off? Real question. Israel is the country most under threat from Iran, not the...
Real question, maybe because Trump is doing negotiations. Obviously, duh.
United States. Okay, so if we were going to take the full-scale J.D. Vance isolationist realist position, shouldn't the United States just sort of wash its hands and walk away and say whatever happens, happens?
No, we can't wash our hands and walk away and say whatever happens, happens. Also, a great Jesus Pilate reference of the washing of the hands. No, because if Israel attacks Iran, Iran is going to strike back, and who's going to have to come and defend them and get in war with Russia and China. The fact that they like so stupidly, their foreign policy are just like, well, what's the big deal if Israel attacks them? Like, you could just wash your hands and like walk away. Or if you're really isolationist, you should just let us bomb them and then you have to come and get in war and defend us and attack Iran. Like, we know all the rabbis, all his rabbi friends and their prophecies of Gog and Magog and Edom being destroyed. And then they're just constantly, nonstop trying to get us brought into this war. Unreal.
Okay, so if we were going to take the full scale J.D. Vance isolationist realist position, shouldn't the United States just sort of wash its hands and walk away and say whatever happens, happens? But I notice that's not what's happening. Instead, these so-called restrainers inside the administration, they're not attempting to restrain the United States, which is already restrained. I promise you, my 100% certitude is that President Trump is not going to authorize a bombing raid on the Iranian nuclear facilities. Whether or not we should, I don't think it's going to happen. Okay, that's just the reality. So why is the restrainer team inside the Trump administration trying to stop Israel from doing that thing? Why? With what bad...
The restrainer team, the people that are not trying to get us sucked into a war with Iran, Russia, and China, and he's just pushing for it. He's egging it on. He's shaming and calling people anti-Semitic if they don't want to go in and get another war. We're going to show you the clip too. His Orthodox Hasidic princess friend, Libs of TikTok, is also pushing war recruitment videos and military recruitment.
Newfie 97 sent $5. Adam, why do you never attack Islam?
Never heard
You
that
attack
quote before.
Christianity 100 times before you do one fluff attack on Islam, even though it's also a Jew creation.
Well, for number one, Christianity is the religion of the West and white people, not Islam. So there's that. Not to mention, are Muslims running our country and serving Israel? No. And also, third thing, I do always include Islam, along with Christianity and the Abrahamic. I'm attacking all of Abrahamism, if you haven't noticed. Thanks for the $5 for the coping Christian with the same cope we've heard a million times. Why don't you talk about Islam? I had a Muslim guy on my show a couple months ago to expose Islam. Islam is fake and Jewish too. Good cope, though. A cope I've answered a billion times also. Thank you.
Iran keeps saying openly they will not stop enrichment. And yet,
and it's such an obvious question that everybody knows. The fact that you're just seething asking it just doesn't make you guys look good at all.
The United States is so desperate for a deal. What, for the sake of a deal? The Iranians know this, which is why they're pushing.
Dude, he's just seething over a possible deal with Trump and Iran. So funny.
And so when Trump warns Netanyahu not to go and do anything about Iran, just trust us. Okay, listen. I will trust that President Trump will cut a good deal if he continues to maintain the Trump 1.0 stance, which is no nuclear enrichment at all, no nuclear facilities at all. That was something that 3 weeks ago the Trump administration was saying. President Trump himself, again, I'm with Trump 1.0 on this.
Brother BD sent $5 on Rumble. Ben looks like he has 2 caterpillars on his forehead.
He does. You know he gets those shaped and waxed and stuff too, for sure. Need More Amalek says we should make a branching decision chart of Christian copes. They've done like the Christian cope bingo, and me and See Through It All work on some memes of all the top quotes too, copes and things they say. That's definitely one of them. And it's like, we include Islam in this all the time. They believe in the Jesus deception too. They believe in affirm and enable all the prophecies as well.
The Collapse Podcast sent $5 on Rumble. Love you, Goy. Don't sweat the copiamatics. $5 Ben Shapiro sucks challenge. Let's see Ben strap up and go fight since he's so adamant about it.
I know, seriously. They know. They got all the gays and the woke out of the military to try to get everybody to sign up too. Pete Hegseth and Trump. Who better to get all of the Americans to sign up for a big war? Yeah, Islam didn't erase our history and force Jew worship on me too. Good point. See Through It All. There's so many reasons.
This, not Steve Witkoff and J.D. Vance 2.0. Donald Trump 1.0 killed Qasem Soleimani, destroyed the Iranian economy.
Oh, so he likes Trump 1.0, first term, not new term, really? Imagine not being satisfied with Trump still over this.
Zionist Cuck sent $5 on Rumble. You've never attacked the Old Norse religion. What are you, a Jew?
Good one. You're hilarious, Zionist cuck.
And held them in check. Then Joe Biden came in, reversed a bunch of that stuff, and you got October 7th and a vast regional war. Why wouldn't we just go back to Trump 1.0? That is the foreign
Thank
policy.
you.
And $10. Why don't you talk about the Reformed Seventh-day Adventist more? Ha, kidding.
Don't know much about them in particular.
That actually shaped the Abraham Accords. Why is that not the thing? Instead of calling the prime minister of Israel and telling him he needs to restrain himself on Iran.
Dude.
So it kind of shocked.
Here's Christy Nome. Spencer's asked if she's Latina. She does have the Latina MAGA look now. Talking about Trump and not allowing Iran to have nukes.
The president will never accept a nuclear-capable Iran. He will never accept them having nuclear weapons and building the capacity to that. The intelligence information that they have and that Israel has and they share with the United States and that we also have and are using for those conversations is critically important. So I think the message to the American people is we have a president that wants peace, but also a president that will not tolerate nuclear Iran capability in the future. They will not be able to get a nuclear weapon, and this president will not allow it. But he also wants to be he wants this prime minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, to be on the same page with him. The president will never accept a nuclear-capable Iran.
Whole lot of talk of that. It makes me think that that's going to be the breaking point. You know what's amazing, too? Like her look. She's had so much plastic surgery. Look at the before. She had really thin lips and total plastic surgery face. She was just over in Israel praying to the wall, by the way.
DBDFFF gifted 1 subscription on Rumble.
Thank you. Don't get those too often. Maybe I should promote them more. Okay. Oh, yeah, I wanted to see. C-SPAN, 1.2 thousand likes. Doesn't talk tough because he doesn't want to offend Bibi. Ugh. Okay. Global Eye News, not sure how credible this is, but this is the latest. U.S. intelligence believes Israel could launch an attack on Iran within 7 hours. It's been 7 hours and it didn't happen. They've been saying this for a long time, too. Leaked plans, released plans about them to attack Iran. So much signaling. Maybe a lot of this is signaling leaks to, like, test the waters or just to, like, prepare people for it, for when it does happen. They're just going to think, like, boy's been crying wolf or something, and it actually happens. Paper Jesus, I saw your dono, but it didn't come through. I refreshed the power chat, and it's not coming through for some reason. Here we go. I'll read it, though. Let me see if I can maybe refresh. It didn't show up on power chat, so I think I'm going to have to read it. $5.29. Yeah. Sorry, guys. This thing's not loading quick enough. All right, I'm just going to read it. Subi49 450, thank you so much, bro. He says, it's Paper Jesus. Let's get this party started. Great to be able to catch you live, AG. Me and Watch the Collapse are going to start a podcast this Sunday. It's going to be epic. That's good news. Optics is everything, guys. What's it called? What's the podcast going to be called? I'm curious. But that's good. Yeah, that's a good idea. More of you guys should start your own streams and shows and spaces and stuff. Couldn't figure out the power chat. The Rumble's supposed to still come through the power chat, though. But sometimes, like, the connection disconnects. And I went in and refreshed it, and I think it's working now. Because the other Rumbles were coming through. Okay, so here's Libs of TikTok. 4.3 million followers, completely AstroTurf. Turns out she was doxxed. She's a Hasidic Orthodox Jewish girl. Chabad Lubavitch, like Hasidic dynasty. We are so back. Now she's pumping American military to try to 8,000 likes to get people to go fight in a war for Israel.
No more distractions. No more electric tanks No more gender confusion. No more climate change worship.
Just biblical apocalyptic war for Israel. The fall of Edom.
We are laser focused on our mission of warfighting.
Our mission to fulfill God's plans to rebuild the temple. Third temple cultist Pete Hegseth. We're going to have the miracle of the Gog and Magog war and rebuilding of the third temple.
We will measure our success not only by the battles we win, but also by the wars we end, and perhaps most importantly, the wars we never get into. It's called peace through strength.
You look into the eyes.
Yeah, like the new Golden Dome Trump's, what was it, like 400 billion? I'll have to look it up. It was many billions, hundreds of billions of dollars for this new Golden Dome.
Of these young Americans.
Also, I thought about this too. Golden Dome, D-O-M-E, E-D-O-M.
Who are giving up the
you guys
best
like that?
Of their life in a uniform to serve their nation. They are incredible.
It's Edom.
Through our power and might,
we need all you American patriots to sign up for the war.
Respect us, our enemies will fear us, and the whole world will admire the unrivaled greatness of the United States military.
The whole world is hating us because of our enabling of Israel. Bombs, war, Christian values,
end the recruitment.
Wars for Jesus. It's funny how Russia's putting out their religious end times war propaganda videos too, and now they got ours as well.
Crisis.
We don't fight because we hate what's in front of us. We fight because we love what's behind us.
Bloodthirsty, temple obsessed.
God bless our armed forces. God bless our men and women serving overseas, and God bless the
Was this produced by J.J. Abrams? They got their greatest Jewish Hollywood directors and trailer makers to put this one together.
United States of America.
God bless our bombs. Dude. End times, death cult, Judeo-apocalyptic fanatics. We are so back, huh? Israeli spokesperson admits the plan is to have America fight their wars for them.
What does Mayor Dagon say? So, Leslie, there has been a lot of speculation about whether Israel would go it alone, would attack Iran all on its own. What does
Israel alone? They say it. We'll go in with or without you. We'll do it if the whole world turns against us. Oh, Trump's abandoning and betraying and dividing the land of Israel and making deals with the Amalek Muslims. Like, it's just all so textbook.
Mayor Dagon say about that?
Well, he thinks it's a mistake generally to make it an Israeli-Iranian.
This is the same Leslie Stahl that's like, Mossad wage war by deception. It's all political theater. They're to the directors and the actors, and they're same one. I'll have to find that.
Generally, to make it an Israeli-Iranian issue. It should be an international issue. Somehow the Saudis should be encouraged to speak up and pressure the United States. And what he really would like to happen is Israel sits back and the Americans do it for the Israelis. It would then be internationalized. He knows that Israel will be attacked, whoever does it, but they'll be attacked less. And what he's most worried about is the retaliation.
So that's like when they attacked Suleiman. It turns out that it was Netanyahu's idea. And then Trump criticized him even for this. He pulled out and then he said, oh, we have nothing to do with it. Same situation. Dude, it's like national security, like red level alert. All these hours of rabbis on the internet fantasizing about America being destroyed in a war with Iran and Russia, and then politically all of the political Zionists pushing for this nonstop. It's just, how is this allowed to happen? Trump's posting shit like he's on a mission from God. He just posted this to his True Social. A mission from God. Nothing can stop what's coming because it's prophecy. It's God's plan. It's hyperstition. And Trump knows the plan. Trump knows the prophecies. Trump knows God's mission and God's will. Right?
You know, there are prophets that say the world will come to an end in the Middle East. You know that, right?
The prophets, I'm told the Jewish prophets say the world will end in the Middle East. You know that, right?
You know, there are prophets that say the world will come to an end in the Middle East. You know that, right?
This is what it all boils down to, the prophecy deception.
This prophecy is how they enslave us. This prophecy is how they enslave us.
Okay? They're trying to tell you. They're trying to give you the truth here. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. What do we have over here? Okay, not there yet. Here, let's do this. United States, the United Nations Security Council says they stand with Israel unequivocally, rejecting any decision to make Palestine a state.
Israelis and Americans. Thank you, Mr.
Here's our
the United States
they never got Stefanik appointed. Did she not get nominated? I got to look that up. I don't remember seeing that she was approved. The ultra Zionist that Trump nominated for ambassador to the UN.
The United States stands with Israel in unequivocally rejecting any effort to unilaterally recognize a Palestinian state or impose conditions on Israel which would be unconscionable, an unconscionable reward for the heinous Hamas attack on Israel that massacred and brutally kidnapped Israelis and Americans. Thank you, Mr. President.
So because Gaza did something, they can't recognize a Palestinian state in the West Bank. I don't think anybody's talking about making Gaza a Palestinian state at this point. Trump's posting his AI videos of him and with golden statues and drinking drinks on the beach with Netanyahu in Gaza and says he's going to take it. We're so, and they're like, oh, the anti-Semitic UN, blah, blah, blah. And we're just there defending them every step along the way. Piers Morgan tells Israeli ambassador to the UK that Israel is killing children, and she calls it blood libel. All the videos we seen for almost 2 years of all the blown up Palestinian kids, and yet they're the victims, and they're censoring anybody that says free Palestine. It's blood libel and baseless anti-Semitic hate and conspiracies if you have trouble with all the blown up kids. And then the Zionists go like tinfoil hat mode and say, oh, it's all fake. Those are dolls. That's Pallywood. That guy's an actor. Just imagine, I got two young girls. Couple Messianic Jews get shot in some tragic attack, and it's the end of the world. They're calling for censorship everywhere. This type of shit happens on the regular, and it's like, oh, you're evil if you even bring it up. Yeah, the Pollywood stuff is the most evil gaslighting thing I've ever seen. I agree. It really is. It's like every building in Gaza is blown up to rubble. Our politicians are going over there and signing their names on the missiles that we're providing for them. I saw a stat they're saying it's been 80 truck plane loads of guns and weapons and stuff, not to mention all the missiles. And they're blowing up everything, but then we're supposed to believe that these are fake videos and dolls, like nobody's being blown up. It's ridiculous. And the normies go, yeah, the elites are satanic. Or Zionists like Roseanne Barr says, oh, the Palestinians are Moloch sacrificing satanic cult, and they're sacrificing their own children. Like victim blaming to the extreme.
Compared to the percentage of a few days ago, you have 2 doctors in Gaza who have 10 children, and 9 of them are killed in a bombardment by your forces, that doesn't make people feel, oh, this is all going great. It makes people think that you're waging a systematic destruction, not just of property and of land, but also of children. And that's what's happening. The percentage of children that you're killing compared to the percentage of you're killing of Hamas terrorists, what is it? Do you know? Do you know how many children you've killed? Well, hang on. Answer me that one question. Do you know how many Hamas terrorists you've killed and how many children you've killed? Do you know those two numbers?
I know the numbers that came from the IDF. I know the numbers that came from a very, very established
Give me the two numbers.
Wait a second. We killed 30,000. We killed 30,000 terrorists in phase 1 of the war. Since the war is back, I don't have the numbers. But let me tell you one thing. We
how many children have you killed?
We never target civilians. So this question is irrelevant.
How many children have you killed?
Pierce.
She won't answer the question and says we never target civilians. And meanwhile, we see their politicians and people on the news saying, like, everyone, take all of it. It's our land. God gave it to us. They're evil snakes and Amalekites and the darkness and savages. We got a clip of Netanyahu in front of a bunch of rabbis saying rhetoric like that here in a second, a new clip.
Israel is not killing children. Israel is not killing children. Hamas is using them as human shields.
Israel is killing children every single day.
Pierce, this is a blood label you're putting on Israel. You know it's not true.
What? No, it's not actually. And what you're trying to do is be
a
very
blood libel
with your words.
No, I'm not.
The truth is, you are killing a lot of children. You would argue
you're doing. You know why it's caused?
Hang on, let me finish.
Hamas is using them as human shields, and you know that.
Let me finish my question to you. You are killing a lot of children on a day.
Hold on. Has there been one missile or one Israeli death in Israel since October 7th? Has there been any missile attacks from Gaza? I shouldn't even say missile. Rocket attacks? Has there been one rocket attack since October 7th? But they're like, oh, we're defending ourselves. And like, oh, they're using kids as human shields. Like, from where? What are you even blowing up? Have you even blown up anything? I haven't seen any dead Hamas fighters. They're like, oh, we have to kill all those children because they're covering up the rocket launcher sites that there hasn't been any rockets launched from in years. Are we supposed to believe they have all of these like secret rocket launchers everywhere and they have to kill all the kids? They have no other choice?
Daily basis. That is indisputable.
Now we got Netanyahu saying if you say free Palestine, it's the modern day Hail H. Let's do the Netanyahu. Where's the Netanyahu one? There it is. Netanyahu spouted some more genocidal rhetoric. Yo, thank you, Fly. The original Dindus. That's true. It's always baseless hate, like a law of nature. Esau hates Jacob, right? That's what it is. Okay, let's see Netanyahu in front of all the Chabad rabbis that I'm told are just fringe and don't have any power and they're extreme. Well, sure, they're extreme, but they're not real rabbis like the most influential Jewish group. The black hats, the top hats. The black hats are in charge, guys. And I went to see the pool of Siloam. And from there, the pilgrim's path. Have you been there? Who hasn't been there? You'll all be there. You will go up. Up there to the temple. Oh, little third temple promising, huh? Up there to the temple. Yesterday, this is not what he said in the clip. This is a war of good against evil being fought against human animals, monsters, savages, darkness, Amalekites. We will defeat them. We will wipe them out. We will not remain. While this is happening, Israel announces plans for 22 new settlements in the occupied West Bank, authorizing outposts, creating new communities. They've been doing this all along to block any possibility of a two-state solution. Chabad's been encouraging it all along as well. Oh, Judaism has nothing to do with Zionism. Zionism's not Judaism. They're all a bunch of atheists. And then we hear all the talking points running cover for the Torah agenda. Smotrich, one of the most extreme guys, is involved with it as well. Led the vote to build new communities and legalize existing outposts. Little by little, they're trying to take over all of Jerusalem, the undivided, eternal capital of the chosen people, and more, little by little, annexing more land in the West Bank. And they want to take all of it. And that's been the plan all along. And then America's blocking the resolutions condemning the illegal settlements. In the 90s, Bush tried to put a freeze on funds to Israel because they were building settlements, and he said there was 1,000 lobbyists on the Hill fighting for it. Batar Worldwide calling this young blonde girl a Nazi because she's standing up for Palestine. Pretty blonde. And then all these leftists, that they'll call anybody that criticizes Jews a Nazi too. That's the stupid point. But I don't take kindly, I don't appreciate these Jews calling who my daughter could be a Nazi because she's standing up against a genocidal state. These pretty blonde Westerners, oh, they hate the blonde, blue-eye Westerners, don't they? The Esau's, the Edoms, they really hate it. Should all go to service Hamas terrorists and stay there. These are scum of scum who have Jewish blood on their hands. Well, you've got lots of children's blood on your hands, Israel. Jews are seeing the modern-day Nazi movement be normalized. See, anybody that says any criticism of Jews or Judaism or Zionism or what's happening in Gaza, instantly, and you're a Nazi. Unfortunately, this girl, Ariana Suzy, so disappointing and sad to see. And I hate the Zionists getting a W in this regard, but turns out she's a lesbian. She's probably a Marxist, leftist, free Palestine lesbian. A young, cute girl like this should be meeting a nice guy and starting a family. Instead, she's hanging out with some, like, are you kidding me?
Stinging Metal sent $5 on Rumble. When Jews talk about God, they are referring to themselves as the collective.
Pretty much. They made God in their image. He doesn't exist, so if you're worshiping their God, you're really worshiping them. It's the way I've always described it. See through it all in the chat. He says, Europeans will always be Nazis to Jews. Yes. Just existing and not hating yourself and noticing supremacist rabbis that think they're chosen and want the whole world to worship the God that chose them and their Messiah makes you a Nazi. Greenblatt.
Business
calling again. They're really on a new censorship campaign, as if it ever stopped, but it's really intensified. He says we need to rein in social media. I know this might be unpopular. He always says, oh, we're not for cancel culture and we're not censoring you. Hey, if you say that we control the internet and are censoring you and wielding their power and their influence in government and industry, you're an anti-Semite. That's a conspiracy and you're anti-Semite. But also if you say it, you're banned because they have the power to do it.
Look, I mean, for starters, distrust creates space for scapegoating. Extremists feel emboldened, and social media is shaping the discourse. So how do we deal with it? Leaders need to lead and call out the extremists consistently and clearly, irrespective of their politics or their partisanship. We need whole of society approaches so everyone finds ways to step up and shut this down. Like, we can't
shut it down. Shut this down.
Wait for someone to come save us. Education needs to change. Business has a role to play. Government has a role to play. The media has a role to play. And then thirdly, again,
media, government, what else did he say?
Government has a role to play. The media has a role to play. And then thirdly, again, I think we need to rein in social media. I know this might be an unpopular view, but I think We need to be intentional and to make sure that the tech companies, who are the most profitable businesses in the world, with the most sophisticated tech in the world, abide by the same standards that mainstream media abides by.
Well, yeah.
Look, I mean, for start,
They're up to something over there. I can smell it.
Cash on Epstein. It's so funny. All the Q people and the MAGA people and the anti-COVID people and stuff, they all were like, yeah, Cash is our guy. He's going to break up the FBI. He's going to take out the deep state. He's going to expose the Epstein list. And then all these Zionists get put in, and it's all Israel agenda.
With Maria,
and now they're telling you, Epstein killed himself for sure. Trust us, guys.
There's a lot of conspiracy theories out there.
There are.
The Epstein thing, you dealt with Maria, you said, as far as you know, he killed himself.
I'm telling you he killed himself.
But there is himself.
I'm telling you he killed himself.
But there is a lot of conspiracy.
You know, it's plausible that he may have killed himself. I'm not dying on the hill of I know it's a conspiracy and he was murdered. He might have killed himself. See, I'm not saying he was. It seems very suspicious, and I could see why they would want to silence him and not have him go to court, because he might, expose some people for sure. But this is just so funny to me because all of the MAGA people and the QAnon people and the Reawaken America tour and the Cash Patel, they were all like, oh, we got Bongino and Bondi and Cash Patel in. All the deep state's going to be coming down. All the Epstein stuff's going to be out, and it's nothing. You got totally bait and switched. You fell for it again award. And they're like, oh, they're corrupted now. Now you all got to backpedal and make excuses. I saw Jones doing that, making excuses. Here, Bongino as well.
To be a disclosure on. I'm just telling you what we see in the file. I just want to be crystal clear on this. I am not asking anyone to believe me. I'm telling you what's there and what isn't.
Right.
There is nothing in the file at this point on the Epstein case, and there's going to be a disclosure on this coming shortly. We are working through there is video. That is something the public does not.
There's video of him killing himself.
No, not the actual act, but the entire MCC Bay. It was only one camera. There's video that when you look at the video, and we will release, that's what's taken a while on this. We are working on cleaning it up to make sure you have an enhanced, and we're going to give the original so you don't.
Cleaning it up, enhanced, but the original too?
Don't think there were any shenanigans. You're going to see on cleaning it up to make sure you have an enhanced, and we're going to give the original.
I'm seeing everybody saying, like, as soon as all the AI video stuff comes out, now they're giving you video for this. Now they're cleaning up, just like they've been cleaning it up and going through the truckload of the Epstein documents. And then Pam Bondi gets recorded by Veritas saying, and then comes out and makes the public statement because it was going to be released, that there's, what did she say, thousands of videos of Epstein with kids?
Up to make sure you have an enhanced, and we're going to give the original so you don't think there were any shenanigans. You're going to see there's no one there but him.
Right.
There's just nobody there. So I say to people all the time, if you have a tip, let us know. But there's no DNA, there's no audio, there's no fingerprints, there's no suspects, there's no accomplices, there's no tips, there is nothing. If you have it, I'm happy to see it. There's video clear as day. He's the only person in there and the only person coming out. You can see it.
So
no matter how many times they keep saying it too, I bet you all the people are going to say, no, it definitely is. Speaking of AI videos, look at this. Chris Brunette shares the Daily Wire's Cassie Dillon, who married a Jew and converted to Judaism and is a huge Zionist, shares what Burnett's saying is an AI video. 3.6 thousand likes, 3.9 million views. She says this video is not AI, and anyone saying so is simply in denial of the facts. Grok says it's real. Does it look real? I thought it looked pretty fake to me. But maybe not.
Dinames sent $5 on Rumble. Epstein is guilty whether or not he hung himself. It's more of a red herring and distraction, kinda like statements 9/11 was an inside job or jet fuel can't melt steel beams. Takes sway from big picture.
It's more of a scandal if he was murdered, because then it's like it's the cover up because they didn't want him to name names in the trial. Because what we're told is that he was like confident and he thought he was going to fight it and stuff, and he was ready to, he was talking to a lawyer and trying to go to trial. I remember the lawyer that last met with him was some shady dude too that was real sus. But yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, it's kind of a little bit of a distraction to even say like, oh, we need to release the list. Like, we already know so many people he was involved with. They're not going to expose anything. And if it is, it'll be in a limited hangout sort of way. What are they claiming this is? Gaza distribution sites tell me this. Hamas set up a roadblock to prevent Gazans from getting aid. We're supposed to believe that there's this many people are showing up to block aid. Their kids are starving and they're all celebrating at a wall, cheering like they're at a sports game. Their favorite player just hit a home run. And they're blocking aid. Are we really supposed to believe this? This video is AI generated. Lies for Israel. AI generated. Fake video. Hundreds of thousands fall for it. And then he says this. Daily Wire was the first mainstream outlet to weaponize AI generated photos 2 years ago. Remember this famous one of the burnt baby that people claim was AI generated? I mean, just because people claim it, though, doesn't mean it's true. But I wouldn't put him past him doing AI videos. People put it through like AI detectors, and it said like, yes, it is AI. But anyway, what have we got next? Okay, Fox News host Judge Jeanine just sworn in as interim U.S. attorney under Pam Bondi, Christian Zionists, pledging no more mercy for criminals and violence. She's going to crack down on the violence. I guarantee you her focus is going to be all like violence on Jews on college campuses, the non-existent violence that is just going to serve as a pretext for a total crackdown. Anyway, here she was as her Fox News host, I think back in 2017 when Trump moved the embassy to Jerusalem. She said it's fulfilling biblical prophecy for the Abrahamic God. It's like a prerequisite to be in the Trump administration. You have to be a Third Temple cultist. You have to be a part of the Judeo-prophecy apocalyptic death cult.
Donald Trump recognized history. He, like King Cyrus before him, fulfilled the biblical prophecy of the gods worshipped by Jews, Christians, and yes, Muslims, that Jerusalem is the eternal capital of the Jewish state, and that the Jewish people finally deserve a righteous, free, and sovereign Israel. Donald Trump recognized history. He, like King Cyrus before him, fulfilled...
King Cyrus was a messianic figure, by the way. King Cyrus was the messianic figure that helped rebuild the temple, and now he's fulfilling biblical prophecy. Dude, these prophecy people, the new term, what was it? Hyperstition. How even if something's not true, if everybody has the belief in it and believes that the outcome is inevitable, that they can actually manifest that reality. It's like a phenomena. I've been explaining it for a long time. Some guy, Lane or something, coined the term for it. Hyperstition. And that's what we're seeing with all this. It's like predictive programming. The prophecy is how they control us.
The biblical prophecy of the gods worshipped by Jews, Christians, and...
And Trump's like on Rogan talking about the prophecy that the world will end in the Middle East. That's the prophecy.
Public attention, and my life took unexpected...
Doing now.
Let's hear what Trump has to say about her. Look, I mean, think about how crazy this is. All of these Zionist Christian fanatics. We got Jeanine Pirro, Fox News host. We got Hegseth, Pete Hegseth, Third Temple cultist, Crusader, Yeshua tattoos, Jerusalem cross tattoos. He was a Fox News host. You got Bongino, the head of the
send $5
FBI.
Hands
Right?
busy, Adam. Or I'd be sending more power chats. Great show. I'm so sick of Abrahamic nonsense.
Me too, man. They're running our country. The Judeo prophecy death cult is in charge of our country and leading us into their end times war. Bongino also, podcaster, Rumble, Cash Patel. Like it's you just have to be a total Zionist sellout to be in Trump's administration.
Hello, everybody. You all ready?
Yes.
What are you trying to do?
What's on 3 and 4 right now?
Thank you very much. So today we're honored to swear in Jeanine Pirro, somebody I've known for a long time. She's an incredible person, an incredible woman. As our new interim United States Attorney for the District of Columbia, it's a big deal. And I'd like to congratulate Jeanine and her whole family. And we have Christine with us, and Alex, I know, is in a very, very important place right now. And the 2 children, but they're not children anymore. And I've heard that, Christine, you're doing unbelievably well and very successful at a great law firm. So it's great to have you with us. Thank you very much. Over 5 decades, Jeanine Pirro, known by millions as Judge Jeanine, has devoted her life to the pursuit of justice, the defense of freedom, and the fair, equal, and impartial rule of law. And that's what she's about. She was a great DA. I remember her very well. She was as good as anybody I've seen. She began a career in 1975 as an assistant district attorney in Westchester County, New York, where she prosecuted violent crimes. And that was a serious prosecution. And she went after real criminals, not to understand them. She does them both great, but
In a system that was both blind and violence will be
people were killed in the middle of what you would call a negotiation. I'm very disappointed by that. Very, very disappointed. Yeah, please.
That's the Putin thing I think we're going to get to in a second. Trump is fulfilling biblical prophecy. And of course, she's a Zionist Organization of America award winner as well. For outstanding journalism, for outstanding Israeli biblical prophecy propaganda. Okay, let's back it up now. I skipped some stuff. Where were we? Okay. So now on the Russian front, to recap before we get to Putin's response, Trump said he's always had a good relationship with Putin, but something has happened to him. He's gone absolutely crazy. He's needlessly killing a lot of people, and I'm not just talking about soldiers. Missiles and drones are being shot into cities. He says it's not his war. He says this will lead to the downfall of Russia. Trump says, I've always said that he wants all of Ukraine, not just a piece of it. It's funny how Trump has supposedly always said that, but if we say that, you say it's not true, huh? Now Trump says it. Can you all agree it's right? And again, people are 4D chess coping and saying, oh, they're winking at each other behind the scenes. Trump also posted, what Putin doesn't realize is that if it weren't for me, lots of really bad things would have already happened to Russia. And I mean really bad. He's playing with fire. You mean like all the bad things that happened to Putin from Biden? What's he even talking about? He says he's not happy with Putin. He's killed a lot of people.
But he's sending rockets. I'm not happy with what Putin's doing. He's killing a lot of people, and I don't know what the hell happened to Putin. I've known him a long time.
I know. Where's that talk about Netanyahu? Like Netanyahu's going crazy and killing lots of people. How come no talk about that?
Always gotten along with him, but he's sending rockets into cities and killing people, and I don't like it at all, okay? We're in the middle of talking, and he's shooting rockets into Kiev and other cities. I don't like it at all. President, what do you want to do about that? I'm surprised. I'm very surprised. We'll see what we're going to do. What am I going to do?
Is this going to push Putin and Netanyahu together? I mean, because we know they're tight. They're tight with Chabad. They've been allies for years. They both have been in power basically since 9/11. Basically dictators of their Israel and Russia since 9/11. And Trump is scolding both of them and warning both of them about messing up his peace deals. Is this going to push them together? Is there a bigger chess game going on here behind the scenes? Is this just theater? Even if it's not theater, are these guys just going to end up pawns on the chessboard playing out this Gog and Magog end times prophecies?
You're the fake news, aren't you? You're totally.
Putin masses 50,000 troops on Ukraine's northern front as Trump again agrees to meet Russian, Ukrainian leaders. Didn't Trump have a call with Putin the other day? Like they were supposed to meet somewhere. Putin didn't go, and they had a 2-hour phone call. Okay, let's go to now Putin's comments. Putin calls to put the West in a chokehold.
We need to get them in a chokehold.
We need to get them in it. Okay, it's dubbed already. Good.
We need to get them in a chokehold. They're trying to strangle us, and we should reciprocate. We did not chase anyone out.
Oh, we're just playing victim. We need to reciprocate the chokehold. Huh? Got us in a... What? Because Trump said that you're killing people while he's trying to make a deal and you should try to make peace? That's a chokehold?
We need to get them in a chokehold. They're trying to strangle us, and we should reciprocate. We did not chase anyone out.
I know. Tito Udall says, what the fuck have we done to Russia? I know.
We provided the best possible conditions to work in our market, and they're trying to choke us. And we...
Do they mean sanctions?
Act in a mirror fashion. We need to get them in a chokehold.
Okay, so this is one of Putin's top journalists, propagandists over in Russia. He's the guy that put on the tefillin and is Jewish. Solovyev. He's on Alex Jones all the time. Blames the U.S. for everything. Right. He's the Russian propagandist that Alex Jones always has on. Let's hear what he has to say now. Let's turn it down. I'll have to read it. He is clearly living inside an information bubble, meaning Trump, and does not even ask elementary questions. Here's what he wrote. Putin doesn't realize is that if it weren't for me, lots of really bad things would have already happened to Russia. And I mean really bad. He's playing with fire. With all respect to Donald Trump, I think Trump is the one who does not understand. And not Russia or its supreme commander-in-chief.
$20. Thank you.
Thank you, Connie.
Sir, I always appreciate your work. Sorry, had to hear the Hildebeest voice.
I've never heard the Hillary voice. I like it. At least it was clear and it came through. Don't like Hillary or her voice, but it was clear and it came through. Thank you, Connie. From the beginning, we've been preparing for war against NATO. And then all the Russian propagandists in the West go, we don't need NATO. Trump should pull out of NATO. Russia's not a threat. Russia's not an enemy. Meanwhile, Dugin's like, give all of our Eurasian allies nukes and point them at the West. And the West is satanic and antichrist and demonic, and it's their fault for what's happening in Israel and Gaza. Alex, Mr. America First, American Patriot, Alex Jones, why you been so buddy-buddy with this guy? And why are you... Alex is probably a Russian agent. Alex is probably a Russian agent. I wouldn't doubt it for a second. I think lots of people are Russian agents, actually. Anybody constantly shilling for Putin and constantly running all of the disinfo against Zelensky, Russian agents. It's the same line of reasoning that Dyer uses. Dyer, probably Russian agent too. Russian Orthodox Church, always blaming the Atlanticists and the West and the royals and...
Идут фразы о том, что
The CIA, everything's the CIA. From the beginning, they've been planning for war with NATO. No wonder all the European countries in Ukraine want to join NATO. They know what it was like to be occupied and fucked over by the Soviet Union. They're scared of Russia and Putin. They've been planning for war with NATO since the beginning, and all the Russian agents in the West talking about, we don't need NATO. NATO wants war. NATO wants war. NATO's escalating. The European Union wants war. I saw a headline. What was his name? Forgetting his name right now. He's a Russian propagandist, and there was a headline on a podcast. The Europe wants war. It's always Europe escalating. Even Trump, where he's like, Zelensky's a dictator, and he's what was he saying? He's not trying to end the war. He wants more war, defending themselves from Putin's invasion. Here's the truth coming out on Russian TV.
Изначально готовили не России, не Верховного Главнокомандующего. Мы изначально
From the beginning,
к войне с НАТО.
We've been preparing for war against NATO. So when these phrases come out, that we can do something bad, let me remind you of something. We can destroy the world several times over. Dude, hey, see through it all. Didn't you clip this guy up when he was on Alex Jones? Can you DM me those? The links to those if you can find them? Because he's saying stuff like, oh, Trump can save us from World War III. And see through it all. Let's see. No, not yet. Okay. Yeah, like here's the Melissa Red Pill QAnon, where we go one, we go all. This is biblical. Perfect example of the probably crypto. Yeah, he was talking Gog and Magog, basically, right? See through it all. Okay, so the QAnon Jewish prophecy, it's going to be biblical shills are saying high-level strategy, trust the plan, in reference to the discourse between Trump and Putin. Oh, man, my back's tight. Yeah, Putin's calling the West racist and Nazi, and it's our fault what's going on. He'll never call out Zionists or Jewish supremacists. When somebody called Chabad a supremacist cult, he fired him in Russia. In fact, the guy commented at the very beginning, I don't think he saw my response, like war for something. He's always exposing Putin, Soviet stuff. I want to have him on the show to talk about this. Time for a new Putin Russia show. It'll probably be more in the news coming up soon, given everything that's happening. Okay. All right. Now on to the Christian segment. Hour in, halfway to the goal. Only Putin can save us from the Nazis, yeah. Dude, people are like, know that there's Israeli agents everywhere, and they act like there's no Russian agents. Like Russia's not doing their active measures. It's funny, that guy's always on Alex Jones, and they're talking about NATO. Oh, they don't want war. We're your friends. We're not a threat. You know, NATO should be broken up, and then truth comes out on Russian TV. They're planning for war against NATO. No wonder they're trying to undermine it with all these agents in the West saying, oh, it should be disbanded from the... Oh, man, I always forget his name. So many of them. There's so many people I suspect as Russian agents. It's hard to tell who's actually a Russian agent or who's just been programmed by the talking points of the Russian agents. Because it is pervasive. Anyway, like I always say, the media loves to bring attention to the "they killed Jesus" kookery. That's why New York Post, New York City bus driver allegedly held students captive on the way to school and claimed Jews killed Jesus in an anti-Semitic rant. Always bringing attention to this because it's so kooky. It looks so stupid. It looks so evil. There's your villain. There's your Christian anti-Semitic villain. The virus that they say. Hating Jews for killing God. Doesn't get any dumber than that. And that's why that's what gets botted and propped up and promoted everywhere. All the biggest controlled op talking point. Jews killed Jesus. This guy gets it. So here's a new channel, Think for Yourself. He's the guy that interviewed Carrier and asked him about me. I haven't seen this one yet, but hopefully we can do a show soon if he gets it. Let's see this.
It should not stop.
He was in the chat the other day, too.
I think at the end of the day, if you're concerned with Judaism,
yes,
and you're posting these Talmudic quotes, it should not stop there. If you're really disturbed by this belief structure and you think that it's problematic, you don't need to go into the Talmud. There's violence in your Old Testament. And that violence is also just as racist. Moses says horrible things. He didn't, the character Moses, who didn't exist at all. He says horrible things. He gives horrible orders that are also racist, not just random violence, racist violence, saying that we are superior than other people.
Whoa. Chill it with the anti-Semitic remarks, buddy. Not allowed to criticize. Don't you know it's anti-Semitic to criticize Judaism? It's blasphemy. It's not allowed. Sorry, buddy. Can't think for yourself. Not allowed to think for yourself with when it comes to Judaism. Not allowed to know what all the rabbis are saying all over the internet. Okay, here's the clip from See To It All. Alex Jones bring on Duganist Red Army lover Vladimir Soloviev. He lays out the scenario for World War III. Israel attacks Iran. America backs Israel. Russia, China back Iran. Then full-scale nuclear war. So he knows the plan. Let's see. Are we going to see? Oh, no. Maybe it's in the quote tweets.
Mediterranean. If you're willing to use your nuclear abilities, or if you're
okay, hold on. I want to get his name so I can find...
willing to use your fighters.
I think World War III has already begun. The question is, Vladimir, will it become nuclear?
Of course. It has to become nuclear. So America will try to use Israel's nuclear weapon, as I see it, against Iran. China will say we don't like that. But Russians, we calculated this ability. That's why Putin said, okay, guys, you want to play tough? That's why we have our supersonic missiles all the way up on our jets in the Black Sea. We can destroy whatever aircraft carrier you have in the Mediterranean. If you're willing to use your nuclear abilities, or if you're willing to use your fighters against Iran or unwisely, please think twice. That's not in our military concept, but we will retaliate if we feel that is far too dangerous, vitally dangerous for Mother Russia. The worst case scenario, uncontrolled war in the Middle East, that will lead to the Israelis being forced to use nuclear weapon, Iran retaliate, America will fight for Israel, China, or the worst scenario that, let's say, in Syria, Russian forces are hit by Americans, and that's the end. 15 minutes and we have full-scale war, full-scale nuclear war.
Well, that's an amazing...
The only one good thing is that will be very free world after that, but free of humans. And that's the worst-case scenario.
And I can't find any fault in your analysis.
So what happens next? The war against Iran. That's almost inevitable. That's what's going to happen next. They will try to hit Iran. Iran will use whatever capacities they have, and they have a lot of missiles and drones and all this stuff.
So we're very close to this kicking off.
So Israeli would say, no, we won't tolerate that. And we'll have to use the weapon of the judgment day. And that will be the end of the world.
Wants to use the weapon of judgment day, the end of the world. Now, what's Dugin saying? Same thing. We are going to distribute nuclear weapon to everybody who can use it against the West. Who, this guy says, Vladimir says he's being persecuted by the U.S. government, that he accused of quote-unquote Nazi tendencies. And on Russian state TV, Vladimir seems to have lost his mind. The messaging portraying Ukrainians as satanic Nazis and claiming Zelensky is not a Jew is commonplace on Kremlin-controlled state TV. Satanic Nazis, what does that sound like to you? Samael, Esau, Edom, Amalek, West, same rhetoric. We got the Kabbalah-loving Dugin pushing the same Gog and Magog apocalyptic war against the West, according to the Kabbalah plan.
It is the message. Russia is back. So you can enjoy it, you can blame it, but we are back. We have abandoned our attitude of polite, pro-Western, pro-liberal politics of the 90s forever. And now if you declare ourselves the war, we accept it, and we are going to strike back with all our capacities. The West declared the war against us, and now the masks are off. We are going.
The West declared war against you? They invaded Ukraine and play the victim.
To fight the Western hegemony with all the means we have. And we immediately rediscover Cuba, rediscover Nicaragua, Venezuela, we rediscover North Korea, we rediscover Houthi, we rediscover Vietnam, Iran, and we tried to keep the distance with these anti-globalist, anti-Western regimes before. But now it's time to abandon such polite attitude, and we are entering into the war against hegemonic West.
The hegemonic, the unipolar world. This is what they're promoting. America is a unipolar. They're the only power. We're already in a multipolar world. That's all anti-Western propaganda, that we have total hegemonic West. Hegemonic, satanic, antichrist West. We must wage war. It's just like they're the agitators and the agents leading towards this war.
That has already begun to do that against us. It is just the delay, but now we are trying to save the time, and we are going to distribute nuclear weapon to.
They say Israel is the proxy of the West. That talking point too. That same communist leftist talking point, calling Israel white supremacist and blaming the West and saying we control them and all this stuff.
Against us. It is just the delay, but now we are trying to save the time, and we are going to distribute nuclear weapon to everybody who can use it against the West. Let's acknowledge that if the West could give nuclear weapon to Israel against Iran and pretend that nothing happened, we are going to overcome all the restrictions, all red lines, because nobody respect our red lines. If you don't respect what we mean by red lines, so we are not going to respect your red lines. So I think we are going to supply all kind of strategical weapon to all enemies of American hegemony, Western hegemony against NATO, starting from Middle East to the Far East, to North America. We are going to war. Now,
North America.
The names sent $5 on Rumble. Do you think the rise in attendance of men going to and converting to the Russian Orthodox Church is suspicious?
Yes.
Definitely wouldn't put it past these types to subvert American men through that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I covered that last show, actually. Even mainstream media, New York Post, like I just showed, is promoting it. And BBC was promoting it.
We consider ourselves in the...
Oh, and Alex Jones's son converted to Russian Orthodox Church as well?
in the place
Jay Dyer
of the
hosting the
global
fourth
resistance
hour
against Western, starting from Middle East to the Far East, North America. We are going to war. Now we consider ourselves in the place of the global resistance against Western hegemony, because we are victim of what we consider to be the attack of the West against us.
Where have I heard that before? Oh, they attacked us. We have to nuke you. We have to give nukes to everybody and have a nuclear war and fulfill prophecies. Okay.
They're lesser.
Yo, thanks, Edom.
You don't set $5. Russia versus West is an old Zionist paradigm maintained by C. Russia is certainly subverting the West, but both Hazard. Please attack the puppet masters. Western Jews absolutely created the Ukraine war. Zelensky is a Jewish puppet.
Attack the puppet masters. They're all playing their roles according to the biblical script. The Russian Orthodox Church and the influence in the prophecies of this war, even the language, the satanic West. I'm already doing that.
And so you don't need to dig into the Talmud. The Old Testament is just as crazy, and in the New Testament, Jesus very plainly states, do not think I have come here to change the word of Moses. Do not think I have come here to change the word of God. I have come here to emphasize it. He goes into specific examples saying, oh, you think that's strict? No, it's even more strict. You've read that, oh, you're not even allowed to covet your neighbor. No, you're supposed to rip out your eye if you fantasize about your neighbor's wife. So he says, you have to live like you're a rabbi to inherit the kingdom of God. Your character, Jesus, is a rabbi who was more conservative than a lot of these rabbis at the time. He's not real, but the character of Jesus is emphasizing this stuff. He's emphasizing the horrors of the Torah that rival the Talmud. Why are these Christians going into the Talmud to demonstrate violence when your own Bible is also?
Because it's their own Bible. You answer the question right there, obviously. And I know he's asking this rhetorically. It's because it's their Torah. They can't condemn the Torah. If you can't condemn the Torah, you can't condemn the root of Judaism. If you don't oppose Yahweh and the Messiah and the prophet, if you believe the prophecies, you've drank the Kool-Aid and you're part of the problem.
Featuring this sort of violence.
Brainwash.
And this sort of supremacy. If you are concerned with Judaism, I am as well. The first step is to not practice a limited form of Judaism that they created for you.
Is this guy in the chat right now?
For you,
let's do a stream, dude.
Worship Jesus or Muhammad. They want you to be in these Noahide religions. They need you to. Because what you're doing is you're worshiping their God in a limited way that allows them to be exclusive. And you're cooperating with their plan because their religion has a plan. In the Talmud, it says, our mission is global domination. The Messiah will come and he will control everyone. And the only people we will allow to live,
Christians want the same thing,
those cooperating with our plan of Noahide religion. Our constructs, these cults we've created for the Goyim, are their only path to be allowed to live.
He gets it. Somebody's green-pilled. Somebody's been watching. Nice. So he did a few interviews with Richard Carrier. He's posting some Richard Carrier clips. Need more ammo? Clip them up. I want to watch them. I saw this one myself. In fact, before I even saw him with Carrier on asking about me, this popped up, and it's a good clip, an important one for people to understand mythicism and how Jesus is fake. Yeah, he goes hard, and he had to. I'll have to go watch his Tovia Singer video. Need more? I'm like, did you watch that already? I saw he interviewed Tovia. There's probably some good stuff in that. Think for yourself. You on YouTube. Here we go.
Or miracles. Yeah. So obviously, it's plausible that there was a historical Jesus. But what I found when I conducted my study on this was that it looks like there wasn't. And when you look at the earlier texts, what you see is like Paul, for example, in his authentic letters, he's talking to this revelatory being that he only knows information about through hidden messages in scripture and revelations, visions, whether they're dreams or hallucinations, whichever. He's not specific as to that. He doesn't seem to know about a Jesus who had a ministry. He doesn't seem to know about Jesus who performed miracles, Jesus who did anything in life. Like all of his writings, it's only space Jesus, right? It's only a Jesus in outer space, essentially. And it's only when you get to the Gospels, and even like we have another author, First Clement, it's the same thing. Like how do you learn about what Jesus said? Well, you go to read the scriptures and you find hidden messages in there, or you have visions.
Yeah, thanks, See Through It All. There was no Jesus, but don't ask who and why he was invented or what is the intended objective of the Messiah in Judaism. See Through It All says, there was no Jesus, but don't contemplate why they created this myth that conquered Europe. And yes, Carrier, we're not blaming Jews today. They're not responsible for what a sect, a fringe sect in Judaism did 2,000 years ago. That would be cartoonish and ridiculous and indefensible. We're not doing that, but it is a fact. Yeah, it's not all just a bunch of accidents. To think nobody lied and nobody had any intentions, even if they were sincere and genuine, they are products of they are products of the prophecies. They're influenced by the prophecies. They're trying to fabricate prophecy fulfillment. How many verses do we have to go back and look at about the Messiah? And it's about conquering the world and conquering the Gentiles, and every knee will bow. But then we call it what it is, and you guys want to save your own ass from the woke cancel mob. Try to throw us under the bus while you run cover and keep it kosher. You know it's a third rail. He knows it. In these interviews, he literally says it. In his book, he says it. That Judaism, according to the scriptures, according to how people believed it back then, according to how tons of rabbis believe it today, we got all the receipts and the clips. They want their Messiah and their God to rule the world. Bottom line, that's what Judaism is. Noahide servants worshiping their God, the God that chose them.
There's no historical Jesus in First Clement either, and that's also what we call before the Jewish War, which is before the end of the 60s AD. 70 AD, the Jewish temple was destroyed. Now, after that, there was kind of a crisis of faith, essentially, and both among the Jews and the Christians. And the Christians were basically a sect of Jews. They saw themselves as sort of the successors to the Jews. But the thing is like the end of the world was supposed to come. Yeah, they expected the temple to be destroyed. They expected Jerusalem to be destroyed. They expected all the bad Jews to be killed and all the good Jews to be saved. Well, that happened. Jerusalem is destroyed. The temple is destroyed. And then nothing happened. Like no one was resurrected. No one was ascended. They were at the end of the world. The world didn't end, right? So the question that they were facing at that time, and this is when I think Mark, the Gospel of Mark, is probably the first written, probably towards the end of the 70s.
At some point, somebody had to know that Jesus wasn't real, and they said, or they wrote a story pretending that he was real, placing him in history. Mark did the euhemerization. So you're telling me if Mark didn't intend to fool people that this guy really existed, and it's in Mark, it's all about going to the Gentiles. This was not a religion for the Jews. It's unfavorable to Jews, and it's pro-Gentile. It meant to appeal to the Gentiles.
70s, and they're dealing with this crisis. Like, how do we explain? Okay, the end. We thought the end was going to come anytime now. This catastrophe happens, and it still hasn't ended. What do we do? And so I think the Gospel of Mark...
Yeah, I don't even know that Paul lied, though. Like, it's suspicious. He talks about tricking people. He talks about, I lie. He says, I lie not. But he doesn't even, if he's lying, he would have just said he knew a guy named Jesus. Like, it seems like he doesn't even know of a Jesus. He's just like, our rabbis in the Kabbalah and in the Peshers, like, are they lying when they make up, mythical stories from scripture? Or that's just like what they do. That's the genre and the tradition. So, and Paul wasn't even the first to like see this Jesus in the scriptures too. So he didn't come up with the lie. It was already Jews that believed in this figure, but he was the one that took it to the Gentiles. And what was his intent? To get the Gentiles to worship the Messiah according to the prophecies. So he's advancing the prophecy memes of the Messiah and the apocalyptic prophecies in Judaism to theologically conquer the pagan gods. Who's going to dispute that? Okay? Carrier's straw manning me, and then I say, no, that's not right. That's not my position. Straw mans me again. Tried to imply that I'm blaming all Jews today, which I'm very clearly, obviously not doing, or that all Jews back then were in on a conspiracy inventing Jesus. I say the exact opposite of that all the time. It was a fringe sect. There was a diversity of sects in Judaism.
Was first written to sort of...
He said in this interview where he trashed you, the Old Testament does predict that Jerusalem would rule the world eventually, and everybody would come to worship the God of Israel. Right, I know. But then if I say it, it's anti-Semitic all of a sudden. And then he goes like, well, it's just extremists and rabbis. It's like, it's tons of rabbis. I'm the one that's doing the compilations. It's me and my guys that are clipping them all up and bringing these clips to the world. You haven't seen them. You turn a blind eye to them, and then you say, oh, those are just not real rabbis. They're extremists. They're not all like that. Just no true Scotsman, running cover. It's because it's hard to blame them, too, because they all know the way that biblical scholarship, which is very leftist and woke, operates. These guys, these mythicists, are already on the chopping block and hated and attacked and smeared by the rest of biblical studies. So I get it. But, like, it's just still frustrating.
Reboot Christianity in this environment and sort of explain why that happened and the world hadn't ended yet. And also what the teachings of the church should be. Like, what kind of person should you be? What is the message of the gospel? How are you saved, etc.? And so he wrote this sort of fable with Jesus as the main character, where Jesus goes around telling parables.
Yeah, and we're not cherry picking the rabbis. It's not just some bad apples. It's like every rabbi we watch pretty much ends up saying the stuff about Edom and the supremacist chosen and Moshiach ruling the world. Like, these are the core, foundations of Judaism. And if we just point them out in like a critical way, you become Amalek and persona non grata. And the witch hunts begin and the pitchforks come out.
Getting into things, doing things, and so on. But every scene is meant to communicate something about the gospel. And it is structured around this idea of how do we explain why the world hasn't ended yet? We're supposed to be saved. What does being saved mean, etc.? And I think that's the main reason why we get the first stories putting Jesus in history. So they have him walking around talking to people, in some cases historical people like Pontius Pilate and Caiaphas, in order to convey messages that they wanted to convey about the faith. But this idea of putting Jesus on earth in our earth history appears to have been Mark's innovation. Like, we don't have any evidence of this ever being the case. In 1 Clement and Paul, the authentic letters of Paul, even 1 Peter, which is an epistle that some scholars think is forged, it might be authentic, but if it's authentic, it also has no knowledge. And this is Peter, supposedly, the right-hand man to Jesus.
Yeah, Paul's authentic letters, letter to the Hebrews, James, Jude, 1st and 2nd Peter, 1st Clement, all these books. And then when you look at like Enoch, what it says about Son of Man and Enoch and Wisdom of Solomon and Psalms of Solomon, you get the whole Jesus story from that in Isaiah and the Psalms and Daniel. It's a lie. It's a deception. People are deceived. If you believe in Jesus, you have been deceived into believing a falsehood. It's a deception. Is it a conspiracy? It's basically an open conspiracy. All the scriptures right there. If you just read them with some discernment, people have always known. It's an open conspiracy. Carrier telling you not to ask why they created this is wicked. I know. Price, too. And I'll be happy to debate either one of those guys or both of them on this topic. And they don't want to do it. Why? Because they'd be forced to concede my points.
When he explains the crucifixion, where does he get all his information from?
Well, and then they'll be on the chopping block.
He found it in hidden messages in Scripture. Like, he has no eyewitness testimony. Like, there's nothing about, I met Jesus, and this is what he said, this is why he inspired me. No, it's just all secret messages in Scripture and Revelation and things like that.
And if he was a schizo or he was a coper, or he really believed this, he's still just advancing the messianic conspiracy, the memes, the prophecy memes. That's where the conspiracy lies. Jews have been victims to the prophecy deception as well. They're trusting the plan. They suffered from these religions. They're brainwashed by the prophecies as well.
So all the earlier texts look like this, and then boom, Mark comes out with this. And of course, Mark has his ideas, right?
Yeah, and then they don't have to debate. They just label you and say you're a bad person, and then that's their get out of it, debating you and actually addressing your points. And it's annoying because I see the way that people do these guys. They label them, they try to cancel them, they call them fringe, they call them conspiracy theorists. They compare, because he's a mythicist, they compare him to flat earther and Holocaust denier, and then they turn around and strawman me and misrepresent me and do the same exact thing. They dismiss him without actually reading his book and understanding his arguments.
And there are other communities that didn't like those ideas, right? So like that's what they wanted to do is rewrite the story, do the same thing he did, but better from their point of view, right? So if you think of Matthew, so Mark is writing for a Gentile community. He's writing for the churches that Paul created. And a lot of Mark is built out of the letters of Paul. He takes things that Paul said and turns them into stories about Jesus or things Jesus said. But the thing with Paul is he said that Gentiles could join the church without converting to Judaism. So they didn't need to cut off a little piece of their penis. They didn't need to follow the dietary rules. Like, it's very arduous to be Jewish. He made it easy. He says, you don't follow.
Well, they never wanted the Gentiles. He talks about how there were God-fearers and there was interest of some Gentiles to convert to Judaism. Well, the Jews don't want that. They don't want people converting. So Paul came up with a solution. They can follow a form of Noahide, messianic Noahide laws. That was the goal. They didn't want the Gentiles to observe the Sabbath and keep kosher and circumcised. That's for the chosen people who have the covenant and follow the 613 mitzvahs. This was the solution. They needed all the Gentiles to worship their God, but not convert to Judaism. This was the Noahide-esque solution.
Follow any of those rules. Just here's some basic commandments, and that's it. You can just follow those, which made it very popular. So a lot of Gentiles came in.
Basic
so Mark
commandments
is writing for that group.
Like Noahide
Matthew,
laws.
However, whoever he was, is writing for the Jewish Christians, the Christians who still thought you had to convert, fully convert. You had to be Jewish all the way, kosher and everything, to be a Christian. So Matthew looks at Mark's gospel and says, oh, crap, that's a really good story. We're going to lose this propaganda war. We need to co-opt that story. And so what he did is he literally borrowed it almost verbatim, almost most of Mark verbatim, and then added a bunch of stuff that pushes this Jewish agenda and this Jewish Christian agenda. And then and of course they sell their gospel as the original gospel, right? And then trying to make it seem like Mark is the knockoff.
Like,
when it really was.
It's lies. They're saying historical things happened when they didn't. They're forging documents. They're burning critics and their works. But, oh, no blame. Oh, and then he says, like, oh, it was out of their hands. I say this all the time. And you know what's funny is, you know who else tries to straw man what we're actually sharing and ignoring the nuance in the argument? The Christians. They go, you think it was a 2,000-year plan? You think the Jews planned for them to be persecuted forever? And I say, no. They got the ball rolling. They planted the seed of believing prophecies, believing in the Jewish covenant, and then it had a life of its own. It was out of their control to a degree.
Wasn't. Now you get Luke comes in on. Now Luke is a Gentile, but he sees this conflict in the church between the Jewish Christians and the Gentile Christians, and he wants to resolve the conflict. He wants them to get along. And so Luke comes up with this gospel about how all the Jews and the Gentiles can get along. And it's the gospel and the book of Acts, and it's all about that. And so he steers the sort of the attacks on the Jews towards the attacks on the elite, which was always the case. It was never like Mark was not anti-Semitic. Mark was critical of the Jewish elite. Matthew is.
It was a fringe Essene-like sect that was blaming the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the high priests for their corruption, them not following the law correctly, them colluding with Rome and Herod and the puppet state. That's where you see it's an intra-Jewish squabble. And the Christians ignore the actual argument we make too and try to reframe it in some cartoonish way that we're not saying. It's funny how both sides try to do it. One, that both sides misrepresent and strawman what we're actually saying, and both sides try to use ad hominem labels to dismiss and not have to address what you're saying. The Christians call you Jewish or Nazi, and then the guys on the left call you anti-Semitic or a Nazi. That's how it works.
He's also critical of the Jewish elite, and he's fully Jewish. Luke is critical of the Jewish elite, but he's really pushing that idea that, you know what, the Jews aren't bad guys, except the elites, these guys in charge. Like, they're the ones that, we got to get rid of them, and then everybody else is cool. And the Romans are cool. That's the other thing, is Luke's very big on the Romans are cool too. They're not really a big problem. And so that's Luke, right? So he's rewritten the story to do this. And then, we're looking about 100 years later, John comes along. Now, John's complicated because our Gospel of John is the second redaction of the original Gospel. We don't have it. The original Gospel, that's one thing. And then someone came along and rewrote it. That's another thing. And then someone came along and rewrote that, and that's the one we have. And so John has a very different perspective. John's perspective is, well, it's 100 years later. We kind of have to retool this religion to suit the current circumstances. And that's what but then, of course, he sells his gospel as the original gospel, et cetera, to supersede all the others. And so that's how the Gospels got written. There was this propaganda war about who controls the narrative of Jesus, putting him in history to sell these ideas. It was all about selling the ideas, not really about telling the truth, the historical truth about Jesus. That's not what they cared about. They wanted the message was more.
So they didn't care about truth. They lied about Jesus doing things and then sold that lie to the Gentiles with Paul. Paul, the Jew, wanted to fulfill Jewish prophecies and be the apostle to the Gentiles. To do what? To get them to leave their pagan gods and bow down and worship the Jewish Messiah. And you're telling me there's no conspiracy in that? That's an accident?
That when you read the letters of Paul and you read them with no blinders on, Earl Doherty came up with this idea that when you read the letters of Paul and you read them with no blinders on, you just read them as they are through no filter and pretend that you don't know the gospel are coming, you don't know the rest of the New Testament is coming, you just read the letters for themselves. What it appears to be talked about there, that Paul appears to be talking about, a sort of a divine being that you only ever met through revelations, through dreams, hallucinations, whatever it was. He's never specific. But it's only revelations. He says, in me. So he's talking about like it's something that you have inside yourself that you experience Jesus and have conversations with him and so on. And so it looks like Paul's talking about Jesus in more of a way that's similar to Joseph Smith talking about the angel Moroni in Mormonism.
It's just like how John in Revelation also gets revelations from Jesus. That's how Paul knew Jesus. He received messages and he saw him in the scriptures. And visions, like he describes his proto-Kabbalistic vision of being caught up into the third heaven.
Muhammad talking about he's getting all his information from the angel Gabriel. Like the Quran is just the ramblings of the angel Gabriel, and Muhammad is just writing them down, right? Like it's the idea. So Jesus is more like Moroni or Gabriel. He's this visionary being. He wasn't an earthly human that you would meet that way. But he still underwent some sort of like cosmic drama where he became incarnate. He acquired a body of flesh, and then he died. And then in Doherty's thesis, it was Satan and his demons who kills Jesus in a mythical realm, in another place other than Earth. And so the only way you learned of this was Jesus told you about it in dreams or whatever. Or you read about it in secret codes inside the Bible that God hid there. None of this actually happened on Earth. And so this basically Paul's going around, the other Christians are going around preaching this revelatory being who said, hey, I've undergone this incarnation and death, and therefore I have defeated death for all of you, and I've got salvation for you. But they're learning all of this through revelation and through hidden messages in Scripture, and then going around preaching it that way. When we get to the Gospels, let's say the Gospel of Mark, which is believed to be the first one, that appears to be the first time anyone imagined Jesus being an actual preacher in Galilee, walking around and meeting people historically, like interacting with Pontius Pilate, interacting with Caiaphas, the high priest, and so on. Those ideas don't appear to exist in Paul's time. Anyway, that was Doherty's thesis, and when I did my postdoc research study on this, I found that
Doherty's book,
strip his thesis down to the basics, I think he's right. And so that's what led to my peer-reviewed study on this, resulting in that seems to be what actually happened. Raphael Lataster, after me, published another peer-reviewed study.
I read that too.
Coming to much the same conclusion that at the very least we can't rule this out. And so there's actually like serious scholarship now, serious actual academic scholarship, questioning the historicity of Jesus, that it actually evolved in this way, that it started as a revelatory being and became this historical figure later on. And so you might ask for the Gospel of Mark. Well, then where did the Gospel author come up with all of this stuff? Where did he come up with the things that he's doing? And there's a variety of answers to that. I mean, one is that if you go and look at how authors were educated at the time, like what were they actually taught to do to compose stories? And when you look at that, you can totally explain the Gospel of Mark, that he's just applying the skills he learned in school as to how you compose and invent stories. And one of the things that you do is you basically create these sort of allegorical stories that represent the moral of the story that you want to convey. But then you tell an actual story that looks ostensibly historical, but actually has all the symbolism in it. And of course, Mark himself has Jesus teach this. It's about the parables. So Jesus would tell a story. The Good Samaritan is one you run into later. But these various parables that he says. But then Jesus, secretly takes his disciples away and says, oh, by the way, don't take those parables literally. There's a hidden meaning that's the moral of the story that's important. It's not literally. And I think when Mark does this in chapter 4, I think he's really communicating to the reader that this is how you're supposed to read his gospel. That you're not supposed to take it literally. That all of these stories have a deeper meaning, and he's constructing them to convey that meaning. And to give you an example, is when Mark has Jesus give the teaching about taxes, where he holds up the coin and says, whose face
Okay, this is
on
boring. Best evidence that Jesus never actually existed, from Bart Ehrman. But before we get that, I want to do a little bit of this. I think this is it. Okay, so let's see. Jesus is based on the Son of Man, who has given authority, glory, and sovereign power. All nations and peoples of every language worshipped him. So they want to conquer the whole world. Let me show you this one too. Hold on. Enoch, the Son of Man, and Enoch. So, Son of Man, Jesus is based on the Son of Man. All who dwell on earth shall fall down in worship before him. He shall be the light to the Gentiles, connecting the Son of Man to the servant of Isaiah 42, 49, 52, 53, 45. Every knee will bow. Chosen and hidden before him before the creation of the world, just like Jesus. What is the Son of Man supposed to do, Carrier? Shall raise up the kings and the mighty from their seats and the strong from their thrones, and shall loosen the reins of the strong. He shall put down the kings from their thrones and kingdoms, because they do not extol and praise him. He shall fill them with shame. This is the secrets of the Son of Man revealed in the basically ascension tradition book of Enoch. Where's the best part? All the kings and the mighty and the exalted and those who hold the earth, and they shall see and recognize how he sits on the throne of his glory, and they will be judged before him. And the birth pangs of the Messiah, and they shall be terrified when they see the Son of Man sitting on his throne. All the kings and the mighty and the exalted and those who rule the earth shall fall down before him on their faces and worship and set their hope upon that Son of Man. They created Jesus from this type of concepts where it's all about conquering the Gentile world. Okay? And I point these out and they say, hey, cool it with the anti-Semitic remarks. Where am I wrong? Why are you running cover for this? Oops, accident. Oopsie, we conquered the world theologically. That was an accident. Stop reading. That's a conspiracy, right?
Cool it with the anti-Semitic remarks.
I could go on and on. I could go for hours showing all the verses. Psalms 2, 22, 69, 110. The Essenes had Enoch as scripture. Though a lot of these verses actually weren't found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. The parables, similitudes were missing, but Enoch was in the Dead Sea Scrolls. The Christians, I think it's Jude, cites the book of Enoch. So for sure, the Christians knew Enoch. Zechariah 9:10, he shall speak peace unto the heathen, or the Goyim, and his dominion shall be from sea even to sea, and from the river even to the ends of the earth. There's a good one in Isaiah 52, too. He shall sprinkle many nations. The kings shall shut their mouths at him. I mean, it's the archetype of Joseph in Egypt, who ended up ruling Egypt, the power behind the throne, ruling Egypt. Okay, that's enough here. Let's see. Do I want to? My back is killing. You're that schizo guy. Let's see. Let's just listen to Ehrman. I want to hear Ehrman on Danny Jones talking about evidence for Jesus existing. Let's see what he says.
You think that Jesus was a real historical person, right?
Yes.
And there are people you've debated that think that he's not.
Yes.
What is the argument to him not being a real historical figure?
Good question. Well, good argument?
Yeah, what's the best argument you've heard?
Well, if I were arguing that case, I would say, I guess, I mean, you're saying it's the best argument is kind of like it's a very low bar.
Right.
It's your best.
Understood.
Yeah, okay, what's my best round of golf? I mean, it's like, well, okay, it's like.
Dude, this guy is not serious. This guy was a lifetime Zionist, educated, all of his higher learning, educated in evangelical Zionist schools.
There's
no good evidence. The bar's so low. All he does is nervously laugh. And yeah, I've read his book. I think it's trash. I've read his book. I've read Doherty and Price and Carrier and Lataster. And I've read the book that they all did responding to him, Bart Ehrman and the Quest for the Historical Jesus. I've seen his debates. I've seen this debate taking place online the last dozen years or so with these guys. What's embarrassing about this is I can steelman their arguments, and Carrier does the same thing in his article, right? Looks like he chugs soy, yeah.
What gives some people pause, not so much, yeah, okay. What would give people pause is that we don't have any eyewitness accounts of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
We have records that are from probably 40 to 60 years later. Our first author who mentions Jesus is the Apostle Paul, and he's writing.
Yeah, his favorite thing is the appeal to consensus, which has been made up and maintained by a bunch of Christians. So, appeal to consensus, appeal to Bart Ehrman, who appeals to consensus and tries to shame and smear and marginalize and label and, quite frankly, blacklist mythicists. You see, they act like in science, and understanding of things, you're supposed to be able to question the consensus. You can't just defend the consensus status quo by saying it's the consensus. It's like, we know that. We're questioning it, and can you address the questions? And they go, well, it's the consensus. Every time they go to consensus. It's a fraud. It's a fraud and a cover-up. I'm convinced of it.
In the 50s, Jesus died around the year 30. So the first time we have Jesus mentioned in any source is about 20 years after his death.
Do we know when that drawing was done with the donkey head on the cross, the guy with the head of an ass on the cross?
Yeah, that's later. That's in the second or third.
Oh, it's later.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And that's what Wes Huff brought. That's probably why he said it. Wes Huff was saying that, like, oh, it's so amazing, this inscription. So all it does is say that, like, the Christians existed, just like they go, oh, the Roman historians wrote about them. It's not contemporary. It's after the Gospels were in circulation. They are only aware of Christians existing. They didn't go and confirm a historical Jesus or say they talked to a guy that knew the guy. It's bad evidence.
It's a much debated thing. People say they know what it is, but in fact, it's debated among experts what it actually represents. It's clearly Jesus on the cross with a donkey's head.
Yeah,
and a graffiti next to it. But no, it's much later. So the first reference to Jesus at all would.
Danny Jones? Are we going to get on Carrier to respond to this? That would be cool. Why have we not seen that? Why is Joe Rogan bringing on all these Christians and Christian apologists, but doesn't bring on any of the top mythicists? I wonder why.
Christian writing is the book.
Oh, now he's shilling Jesus and going to church. Nothing sus there, right?
1 Thessalonians. Mm-hmm. And it's usually dated to the year 49 or 50. Mm-hmm. Jesus died around the year 30. So it's about 20 years later. So the argument would be that we don't have any eyewitness reports, or we don't have any, things that are really close to the Gospels. The first Gospel was written around the year 70. So that's 40 years later. Mm-hmm. So why should we think he really lived? That's kind of the argument. Mm-hmm. It's not a good argument, but it's an argument.
How is it not? You're mentioning Thessalonians. Paul never knew a Jesus. He doesn't speak of any biographical details of a Jesus. He basically outright says that Jesus did no miracles. He says his only source of knowledge about Jesus is from the scriptures. He did not learn about it from any man. The Christians before him, it must have been the same thing. This is what he does. He just tries to hand wave and laugh off mythicism. And the verse in Thessalonians that talks about Jews killing Jesus and then suffering because is a reference to the temple being destroyed. Paul didn't write that. It's an interpolation. Paul's has interpolations all over it.
And it is crazy too. I mean, that goes with a lot of historical figures. Like I think Moses is one.
That was his straw man. That was his attempt to steel man the mythicist argument. Okay? Is it not clear how dishonest that is?
Written about until, like 1,000 years after.
And he's been refusing to debate Richard Carrier for a decade. Somebody even offered $10,000 to go to a charity if they debated, wouldn't do it. And it's because he's been losing the debate. That's why. And I see the way the Araman crowd and the Carrier hater crowd works. Like a mob, like a cult. Oh, speaking of Superman, somebody sent me this, guys. It made me chuckle when I got it, but hold on. Whoever sent me this, thank you. Look at this. It's an old collector's Thor action figure. My daughter wanted to get it out of the box. Whoever sent this, thank you. It's great. Now I have my pagan idol. I know you're supposed to keep stuff like this in a box, but I kind of want to be like my hero, my mythicist hero, Dr. Robert Price, and have a million Supermans hanging around behind me. But I don't know. I'm not much of a collector. I don't want to hold on to this the rest of my life. But should I take them out and put them right here? Is that a good idea? Thanks, whoever sent this in, by the way. Nice gift. Now I have my pagan idol. I can say down with Yahweh.
Died.
Yeah, well, 30 years is very different from 1,000 years.
Yes, very different.
So when Paul's writing, there were people alive who knew Jesus.
Right.
And Paul
Need More Amalek says, every time I mention Carrier on my Twitter, I get them swarming in my replies. Yeah, they've got it out against him for sure. And he's the sharpest when it comes to these debates and arguments too. There's a reason. He has crushed them basically.
One. Moses wasn't written about until, what, like 1,000 years after he supposedly died?
Yeah, well, 30 years is very different from 1,000 years.
Yes, very different.
So when Paul's writing, there were people alive who knew Jesus.
Right.
And
Paul explicitly says that he learned nothing about Jesus from any of those people, and they added nothing to his message. And his only source, and First Clement's only source for Jesus, was from the scriptures. The nervous laughing, too, is just too much. He knew people that knew Jesus. You mean the mention of James, the brother of the Lord? They call everybody that believes in Jesus brothers and sisters. He shows no indication anywhere else that James is the brother of Jesus. He was probably talking about a spiritual brother of the Lord. That may even be an interpolation as well. How come the book of James in the Bible, he doesn't say anything about being the brother of Jesus? He doesn't introduce it, I, the brother of the Lord. He says, I'm the servant of Christ or servant of Jesus or something like that. And same thing for Jude. Jude is the brother of James. In the book of Jude in the Bible, it says, I'm the brother of James, but then neither of them are going to mention that they're the brother of Jesus because they weren't, and that tradition hadn't developed yet. That's why. You can look in Apocrypha text of James. It says he's not the blood brother. He's the spiritual brother. Explicitly. And he just sits up here and laughs and doesn't tell you any of that and just goes, he knew people that knew Jesus. You mean like Cephas, like Peter, who also, he goes, this is not a cleverly devised myth in 2 Peter, for we were eyewitness of his majesty. We saw him in the mountain on some supernatural, made up from prophecy story of the transfiguration.
Knows some of them.
So it's a much better case for Jesus than Moses.
I mean, Paul knows his brother. Paul personally knew Jesus' brother. So, I mean, if Jesus didn't exist, you'd think his brother would know it. Mm-hmm. That's a joke. Moses.
Okay, can you address what the argument is? He's acting like there already isn't a response to this. Does he not know what mythicists say about James being the supposed brother of Jesus? That's all he does, and he thinks, okay, debunked. He's the spiritual brother. He's not a real physical brother. Bart, can you respond to that point?
Whole different thing. I mean, so if Moses lived, Moses would have probably lived in the 13th century BCE. Mm-hmm. And it's not clear if we have any sources that mention him for centuries.
Right.
So that's a different thing from somebody talking about him who knows his brother.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, totally. I mean, then the claims when it gets into him being...
Paul doesn't treat them like they're... If James and Peter were really the brother and best friend of Jesus, how did Pauline Christianity win out? How did his version of Christianity win out how did he ever have any authority if he never knew Jesus? They all knew him. They were the disciples. They walked with him. But then Paul comes along and says, hey, well, I had a vision too, and I saw him in the... Paul wouldn't be arguing that he didn't learn about Jesus from any man and that he saw him in the scriptures if that's not how all the Christians knew Jesus, the spiritual, heavenly Jesus.
Divine and
that's a different story.
Doing all these things and being able to, that's the whole thing. Which I read recently, this fascinating book that really gave.
Paul never places Jesus on earth in any earthly context with any of the disciples. Paul never uses the word disciples. Besides the one mention of calling him brother of the Lord, when all over the epistles, they're all calling Christians brothers and sisters in Christ.
Me a really good understanding of everything, which was Thomas Paine.
I need you to go undercover. This looks like an outbreak of serial murders.
I forget the name of his. I think it was The Age of Reason by Thomas Paine.
Yeah, no, it's a classic.
Oh my God, it was such a good book.
Yeah. No, these English deists were really something. They knew a lot, but they didn't know what scholars know today about things like the Bible.
Yeah, and he explains how like the first Christian preachers, how they were, selling Christianity.
This is like making the argument that, well, Paul says 500 people saw Jesus in his post-resurrection vision. He knew the people that saw Jesus. It's like the same type of argument. Paul never talks about James on earth with Jesus, only that he appeared to James and Cephas and the 12, which wasn't a 12 at the time. It would have been an 11. But there are a group of... Here's the other giveaway, okay? We got the pillars and the 12, the Council of 12. These are both concepts that did not start with the apostles and the disciples. This was in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Paul was probably mentioning some Jerusalem, Essene-like Nazarene, Ebionite sect. That's the Council of 12 he was talking about. They're advancing on Book of Enoch and Wisdom of Solomon and Psalms of Solomon and reading the scriptures, searching for their Messiah, and this is what they came up with.
And then there was the second generation of Christian preachers, then the third generation of Christian preachers, and how the ideas and the motivations and everything gets lost in each generation, and then eventually down the road, it's kind of like the starting point. We don't even remember where this started, but we do know that the preachers are making a living off of this stuff, right? So, the idea of Christianity is just like this game of telephone throughout history, especially when you have these people making a living off of it.
So, someone like Thomas Paine is a very important.
Yeah, guess who's made a career and a living built upon who the historical Jesus really was. And then he goes, I got no skin in the game. I'm an atheist. I got no skin in the game. But he loves Jesus. He loves Christianity. He loved Jesus so much, he went to Princeton Theological Seminary and Moody Bible Institute, a bunch of Christian Zionist schools.
Tales of the Levant sent $5.
Become an apologist.
The brother of the Lord as another fictional title name like Judas Iscariot, Joseph of Arimathea, and many others.
I think a James really did exist. And he might have been one of the first ones. Like I said, I think Paul wasn't the first one to find Jesus in the scriptures. It was probably some Essene Council of 12, and James the Just, the leader of the Nazarites, the Ebionites, some Essene sect with Peter. And then if you look at Total Yeshu, it says Peter and Paul are like secret agents to take this religion to the Gentiles. And you may say, oh, that's late, that's polemic, but they still say it.
For like the history of biblical scholarship. He wasn't a biblical scholar himself.
Right.
But these 18th century English deists mainly led to the development of biblical scholarship and the scholarship in early Christianity, especially in Germany.
Are we still talking about Jesus?
Also in England and France and eventually in America. If you want to know what was really going on in Christianity, you don't want to rely on what they have to say because they're at the very beginning. It'd be like, if you're going to be studying what evolutionary biologists think today, you definitely have to start with Darwin. But you can't base your views of evolutionary biology on Darwin. You've got to see what we've found since these breakthroughs. But if you want to see what people wrote...
Things don't just appear out of thin air. So it is just by us being as intelligent as we are, we have to understand that we can't appear out of thin air. There has to be some sort of higher power. Right? Without that gift of reason, we don't have that.
Well, that's what these.
So it's like the human brain.
We're doing.
That's all we got. The best evidence for Jesus existed. That's the title of the video, and this is what we get.
Historians or philosophers or
you're supposed to steal man, and it's the biggest straw man ever.
Whatever. What they what they were doing is they're trying to break with the tradition of the church that had been.
And this is all he ever does. He'll do an appeal to authority, appeal to consensus, and disparage it, say it's fringe. You can't get a job if you believe. That's like a veiled threat. You can't get a job. You won't be a professor. You won't be allowed in the SBL guild, stuff like this. And he's like the president of the Society for Biblical Literature, where this consensus is made. And Richard C. Miller, another secular scholar, says he goes there and somebody will go up and give a speech about how miracles are real, and like half the crowd stands up and gives it a standing ovation. That's where your Jesus consensus is coming from.
Of years.
Consensus has been wrong so many times. You can't defend the consensus just by stating it's the consensus. And then saying, well, Paul knew James, the brother of Jesus, so it's real. As if the mythicists haven't addressed deeper than that. It's so fraudulent.
Where your knowledge came from revelation from God. That's how you know things, because God reveals it to you. And the people with the Enlightenment realize, well, actually, we can figure things out ourselves. And that's when the sciences develop. And and the people with the Enlightenment, only when someone like Isaac Newton comes along and realizes.
Are we getting nothing else about Jesus? Yo, thanks, Dominic.
Freemasonry was
scrolls have been found that Jesus' real name is Yebus.
Jebus? Yeah. Good one, Dominic. No. But I was watching Rumble earlier today, and there was a commercial that played before the video, and it was PragerU, Glenn Beck doing an advertisement for PragerU about the Dead Sea Scrolls. I think I still have like a part 3 to finish on the Dead Sea Scrolls as well.
The big thing with the founding fathers.
All right. I guess there's nothing else about Jesus.
If somebody is whatever, is a Satan worshiper, is a Mormon.
All right. Over it. Let's hear from Nuctal, Christian apologist.
In the Bible, does it say you have to go to college campuses, argue with people just for views? You're the same as the schizo guy that wanders around with his little dog out here. I don't know if you've seen him.
All right, so I'm getting the drift that you don't really appreciate me standing out here and speaking. Now, with your critical mind, do you think God exists or not?
No.
Why?
It's beside the point, though, whether God exists or not.
Really?
The main thing is that you try to actually work towards improving society, improving the world around you, and I don't really see people like yourself doing that.
Oh, really?
To distract people from the real problems in society and bring them back towards theology. The church is the biggest obstacle to people standing up for themselves against oppression.
Really?
It is one of the main pillars of oppression in that society. I know a lot of you guys don't agree with me. I don't think that you're actually doing anything to improve a lot of downtrodden and toiling people. You're just putting up smoke and mirrors to distract people.
Really?
Yeah.
What's the demographic with the most atheists in the world?
Probably the wealthy countries, yeah.
Oh my goodness, isn't that interesting? The demographic with the most atheists is wealthy white guys. What's the demographic in the United States that has the highest percentage?
Most wealthy white guys don't believe in Jesus. And then these LARPers online say I'm anti-white for saying Jesus is fake and Jewish. Get owned. Get mogged.
Followers of Christ, African American women. So what I hear you saying, sir, is all them dumb twits just don't get it. They just submit to this Jesus and blindly pray to him instead of getting off their backsides and doing something. Sir,
what a twist. He didn't say that.
Totally out of touch with reality. African American women in the United States.
He's like, what, you don't believe in Jesus? White people don't believe in Jesus, right? What, do you hate blacks? Like, that's the way he spins it. Hilarious.
Understand, there is
That's
nobody
right.
who stands for the value of woman more than Jesus Christ. Because the Bible teaches we're all created in the image of God. And just because you got some twit anthropology.
Yeah, the Bible stands for women. That's why it blames Eve for taking the fruit from Satan and curses her with painful childbirth. And that's why the Bible says women can't speak in church, because it's so pro-women.
Professor who tells you, oh yeah, it's all colonialism.
It's so pro-women. That's why they were burning witches alive. Pagan European women witches.
Why Africans believe in Jesus. That's racist. It's a joke.
You're saying we're in our last days.
I do believe that.
Okay, hold on.
We're in our last.
All right. Now, speaking of black women loving Jesus, this is for all the white Christian nationalists out there, all the based e-crusaders. Ready?
My God is faithful, and my God is powerful, and my God is in charge. You can't fire him, and he'll never retire. Thank you, Jesus. Glory, hallelujah.
Where in the Bible does it say you have to go to?
Hold on, getting the call. Okay, let's go this one. Dude, this is the goy slop, the Jesus goy slop that's promoted in the mainstream and promoted on social media and botted and boosted in the algorithms compared to how my stuff's more suppressed than ever.
No, when we...
Can you call up a ghost?
A deceased person?
Daily Wire, real serious, talking about ghost. Talking to lunatic Christian ladies who can summon ghosts. Come on, play.
Can you call up a ghost?
A deceased person?
Yeah.
No. When we die, we go to one of two places, dependent upon your relationship with Jesus, of course. So no. And there's a great chasm in between. And of course, the Bible tells us that also. If you look at Lazarus and the rich man, Luke 16, you'll see that there's a great wall, if you will, between heaven and hell. So how I say it all the time is, I'm not bopping in and out of heaven and coming to earth, or coming to your dream, talking to a psychic, and you're not getting out of hell.
Isn't it funny how kooks like this woman get invited on Daily Wire for exclusive interviews? Do you see me being promoted by big Jewish networks? Do you see our narrative? Do you see Mythicists being promoted by big networks like this? No, they're shut out and marginalized and smeared.
Coming here either. So once where the Bible actually also says...
We hear these Christian e-crusaders online say, oh, there's nothing they hate more. They want to subvert it and they want to destroy Christianity and stuff. But why is it promoted everywhere? All the biggest Zionist shills are all promoting Jesus, and then all of the biggest anti-Zionist voices are also promoting Jesus. We're anti-Zionist while worshiping the God of Zion, and nobody sees a problem here?
Don't talk to the sleeping, they know nothing. Don't talk to the dead, they know nothing. You are where you are. So you're never, ever contacting a deceased person. You're being duped, but you're not being duped because the psychic is trying to, of course, minus the charlatans and the hucksters.
Oh, yeah. Like, you're not a charlatan and a huckster. No, you really went to heaven and speak to ghosts. Not like those hucksters. She has the power of the Lord. Michael Knowles, who also brought on the Daily Wire, Michael Knowles also brought on that like Langan guy, the smartest guy in the world. And he said, oh, God is real because of this pilpul, stupid bullshit reason. This is who else he has on.
Like me, when I was a real psychic medium, I really wanted to help people. I was told I had a gift from God.
A psychic medium. Yeah, that's totally real. That's totally not delusional. No one is good enough for heaven. This is just what the YouTube algorithm pumps all day to the sheep.
Man, you guys will forgive murderers. Jesus will forgive you murderers, child molesters, if they believe in him. But if you're a good person who doesn't fully believe in him,
Yeah, so to that, I would say there's no such thing as a good person. All good people go to heaven. That's clear biblically. But Jesus says no one is good but God. So we have a dilemma. All good people go to heaven. No one is good but God. What does that mean? No one's going to heaven. There's no such thing as an innocent person. In that I deserve hell. Me, Wes Huff. We all deserve hell. You deserve hell, and you're evil and damned and destined for hell and hellfire if you don't believe in the magical Jew, the King of the Jews, and the magical prophecies. This is how Christianity spread, with this type of psychological coercion and fear-based tactics and breaking you down like a cult to build you back up with Jesus. I'm evil. I'm not innocent. I need to believe in magical Jewish blood magic sacrifices, and then I go to heaven. And like I say, always, it's not even Jesus sacrificing himself that saves us from heaven. It's you being gullible enough to believe it is what supposedly saves you so you can go to heaven. Oh, and what do you know? Wes Huff, the new Chad Christian apologist that everybody's portraying as some serious scholar, being completely astroturfed all over the mainstream alternative media because there's nothing they fear more than all the Gentiles bowing down to the God of Zion. 100% of the time. The wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life through Christ Jesus. I am not going to heaven of anything I've done, right? I can't do that. You cannot earn your way to heaven. It's not about what I'm doing, it's about what Jesus did.
It's all about believing in magical prophecies, then you go to heaven. Are we in the end times? Let's hear another. How many likes does this one have? 553,000 views for this one, guys. Ready?
Days. I do believe that. If we're in our last days, what should we be doing? You're saying we're in our last days. I do believe that. If we're in our last days, what should we be doing to prepare? Well, you know, but nobody's ever asked me that before. You know, like when fall is coming, what happens to the leaves outside when fall is coming? They turn brown, they fall off the tree and they wither. In the same way, we are not ignorant of the end times because the scripture tells us that there are things that's going to be happening in the end times. And when you see all these things happening, you know that the end is near. Like, for example, the scripture says, in the last days, men will be lovers of money. In the last days, the love of people will grow.
Come on. They'll be lovers of money. Oh, yeah, people never loved money before. Yeah, the scriptures say that people going to love money. Like, they haven't always loved money. Okay, try harder.
In the last days, children will be disobedient to parents.
Oh,
in the last days,
kids never talk back to their parents before. Only that means the Antichrist and Jesus. Some kids not listening, some toddlers throwing a tantrum. I guess Jesus is about to return.
Be led astray in the last days, many fall. So all throughout the New Testament, there are signs of what God told us will happen in the last days. And for those of us who read the Bible, for us, it's like seeing the leaves falling off the tree. So I am not ignorant of the fact that we're living in the last days. I do believe that time is running out, that the Lord is going to return soon. And we don't have all this time we think we have. There are people watching right now think they got all this time to get right with God, and tomorrow's not promised to them.
Man, you guys will forgive murderers.
Preach, brother.
Jesus will forgive. You murderers.
All right. That is all we have for today. Did we... my goal wasn't really adding up, so I still don't think we made the goal, not even close. So, fail. I guess I'll be back tomorrow to cover some more. I didn't finish. I got more content for you guys. We'll see what happens in the news also. Shout out to everybody that donated. Thank you all for the support. If you haven't already, get a shirt before they're gone. New design. Buy both, get free shipping. Viking Owl and Viking Longboat. No More News shirts. Support the channel. Shout out to everybody. See through it all. Everybody for clipping, sharing, posting, supporting your super chats, subscribe stars, mailbox. Thank you for whoever sent my Thor action figure. You guys are the best. You guys get it. Hail the old god. Oh, yeah. Hail the old gods and down with Yahweh. Boom. Later, guys. Thank you, Zornder, Edom. See you guys tomorrow. Oh, and I'm going to be on the kill stream tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern. Almost forgot. All right, guys. Take care. Thank you.